something that's happened on the federal level is impacting our local Idaho communities. And last Friday, Idaho schools and a local nonprofit, the United Way Treasure Valley, that is supporting our Idaho schools through a specific program, were notified that a federal education grant already awarded, already in use, and already changing lives is being canceled early. So, what are some facts that we need to know before I kind of take a deep dive into this? Well, things to note about institutions and people that are being impacted. Here are some key facts. 47 public schools, both rural and Title I schools, are being affected. Those are Idaho schools. These are 22 districts. And the grant that was awarded, that was a 5-year grant, is planned to be cut 3.5 years early. And this decision from the feds is about language, not performance and not outcomes. So today I want to walk you through what this grant is, why it matters for Idaho, and what's actually happening behind the scenes and what you can do right now to help to work to reverse this decision. So this is impacting the Full Service Community Schools grant. What is the Full Service Community Schools grant? So this grant is a federal program through the U.S. Department of Education, and it's designed to support the community school strategy that is not new, it's not experimental, and it's not partisan. The community school strategy is something that has been a part of Idaho schools and communities since 2016. So since 2016, Idaho school leaders have voluntarily adapted the community school strategy within their schools. So currently 65 schools statewide, including 47 rural and Title I public schools, have this community school strategy integrated into their schools. And this work through the grant specifically is coordinated through the Idaho Coalition for Community Schools. And that coalition is backboned by the United Way of Treasure Valley. The United Way of Treasure Valley, they are the organization that applied for this grant, and they are the organization that supports this work to help our local Idaho communities. So here are some grant specifics. It was awarded, there was a big presentation in around January, February of 2024. It's a 5-year state scaling grant, approximately $46 million total. And it's my understanding that the grant period essentially was from January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2028. My understanding then it was that the first school year that this grant started was in the fall of 2024. There is a fact sheet. I've tried to gather as much information as possible. I'm going to link it in the show notes for you so that you can go to this fact sheet to understand just some of these different moving parts and what you can do. But essentially, this grant supports 47 public schools, with 3 planning to join next year. And this grant was designed as a long-term investment, not a short-term pilot. So what is a community school actually, and what is it not? So earlier this year, I was able to attend the National Community Schools and Family Engagement Conference, and I was blown away by the quality of research, practice, and leadership in the room, and lots of the different workshops that I attended. And I was actually able to meet one of the individuals that started this community school strategy over 30 years ago. And one of the things that I heard him say was that the community school strategy is not a program that is governed by any particular entity. And it is not a program that you have to hit all these check boxes to be able to receive the designation for a community school. The community school is a leadership model that is integrated into a school to work to address the needs of the students, staff, parents, and that school community. And it's intended to use data and use the information that the school has and feedback from parents in the community to make decisions that are going to be best for that school community. And one of the most important things that I have picked up along my way of understanding how the community school strategy is so awesome for Idaho is that the community school strategy is not an adopted program. It's an adaptable strategy. What's the difference? An adopted program is basically a one size fits all. It must be every component must be implemented, and it is often disconnected from local context. Adaptable strategies are adjusted to local needs. They are driven by parents, educators, and community leaders, and these adaptable strategies are flexible while staying grounded in evidence. Why does this matter for Idaho? That adaptability is exactly why this strategy works so well in Idaho. Because Idaho is a large state, 70% of our school districts are rural, and we do have an urban part of our state as well. So we have rural and urban, and those needs differ. Healthcare access is different, transportation, workforce, housing challenges, they're all different. So the community school strategy allows local leaders to decide what matters most, not just local leaders, but using data collected from students, staff, and parents. All key stakeholders are decision makers. So this is a leadership strategy, not a federally scripted program. That's really important. And I really want you to hold that thought in your head, that this leadership strategy is adaptable for Idaho, and it's not a federally scripted program. So to me, this very much fits the Idaho way and our Idaho values. So what does the full service community school funding support in Idaho? This funding provides a 5-year runway for literacy and STEM innovation, improved student and staff mental health, career-connected learning, and after-school and summer enrichment. This funding helps support staff within 60 full-time positions statewide, particularly the community school coordinator. And these coordinators are supported through professional development. And part of that professional development is the interaction for coordinators statewide, which is awesome. I can tell you as a parent leader and someone who led a local parent group in one part of Idaho, when I was able to connect with other parent leaders across the state, that deeply benefited my local unit and my local school because I learned what other school parent leaders were doing and able to bring some of those programs into my school. So that's one of the values of the community school coordinator, is that they're not only facilitating what's happening in that local school among key stakeholders, but they're also interacting with other community school coordinators around the state to hear what's happening around the state, which is awesome. I think that really deeply benefits Idaho. So these coordinators don't replace teachers. They organize community resources so teachers can teach, administrators can administer, and also be that outward-facing individual in the school, and students can learn. And that's something that I have learned about this coordinator role, is that we know that within our communities and within our schools that we have a lot of expectations for our teachers and our administrators. They have our kids. We want them to do well. And that also means we need them focused on the things that they're experts on. And so these community school coordinators come in and they're able to kind of pull everyone together in their school community in a way that has the potential to really help improve all of these outcomes that I mentioned earlier for students in this literacy and STEM innovation, help with improved mental health and just various awareness for student needs, being, career connected learning, and then also these after school and summer enrichment programs. And note that a lot of our rural schools have only 4-day school weeks. So that 5th day, even those coordinators are able to help connect with other community resources to make sure that our families have needs met for their students on that 5th day. So what's important to note is here's some critical consequences if this funding is cut early. $30 million will be lost that we will not have available to us in Idaho. Staff will likely be laid off during the holiday break, and programs will end abruptly and midstream. So what is happening now and what is not happening? So what's happening? The U.S. Department of Ed notified the United Way Treasure Valley just this last Friday that the grant will end on December 31st, 2025, and all project activity must stop, meaning that they cannot pull down those funds, try to spend those funds early. They only get to spend the funds that are designated, and that any activity that was using those funds must be stopped. And why is this happening? Now, this grant was awarded during the Biden administration, and DEI language was required in proposals at that time. Particularly, there were I noticed that there were just 2 phrases, 2 parts of this big, huge application that had the words equity and inclusion. And in part for Idaho, they describe what that means, which is ensuring that all students within the school are helped and included. That's it. So no outside agendas were being pushed with this program. That language was used to help be awarded the program, and then also to help the individuals deciding who would be given the award to understand what that would mean for Idaho. So just for clarification purposes, all work is led by Idaho school leaders and the United Way Treasure Valley support staff. No DEI-related trainings have occurred. No outside agendas are being pushed, and currently the proposal is being amended to meet the language requirements for the current administration. So this decision is being made based on proposal language, not on what is actually happening in Idaho schools. So why are community schools a smart investment? There's a couple of key things that I just kind of want to zoom out to policy and outcomes for a moment. So right now, 65 Idaho schools have integrated the community school strategy. If you'll note, 65 schools have integrated the strategy. 47 are supported by this grant. This means that a couple of our school districts, mostly within the Treasure Valley, we're talking Boise, West Ada, and there's a couple of other ones, are able to support this program with their own local funds. But our rural areas are not able to do that. We're not going to talk about funding, but just to note that that's the difference in numbers there. With those 65 Idaho schools who are investing in this community school strategy, that includes 25,000 students. And this means that for every $7 to $15 they receive in community value, this is worded really weird. For every $1 invested in this program, the community receives in value $7 to $15. I'm going to just say that again. For every dollar invested, the payback is $7 to $15 that they receive. The investment is $7 to $15. That's an incredible value for what is invested there. So ultimately, when we as community members invest in upstream in our kids and in our families, we spend less downstream on healthcare, policy, and incarceration. So this is not theoretical. It's already happening in our Idaho communities. So I just want you to know that this is not some abstract list. These are real schools, real families, and real communities. And these are the districts that are going to be impacted by the closing of this grant. And I want you to know what these these are the school districts that will be impacted, noting that some of these school districts have a couple of schools within their district who have integrated this strategy and are using this grant. Caldwell, Cascade, Coeur d'Alene, Emmett, Garden Valley, Genesee, Homedale, Jefferson, Jerome, Marsing, Middleton, Minidoka, Moscow, Mountain Home, Nampa, Notice, Parma, Salmon River, Soda Springs, Teton, Wilder. Again, this isn't an abstract list. These are our real school districts in Idaho. These are real communities. And they will deeply lose out if this grant is canceled on December 31st. So I want to reassure you what the Idaho Coalition for Community Schools response is. They have consulted national policy and legal experts. They are activating community leaders, school and district leaders around the state, and they are filing a formal appeal. And it is possible because Idaho has already been impacted by some of these. Some grants have been, grantees over the last couple of months have been informed that their grants will be canceled. When they changed the language and they were able to make that appeal, some of those grants stayed in place. So to me, that is hopeful. The deadline for this formal appeal, this letter that people can sign, is December 17th. That's today. That's the day that I'm making this podcast. But there is a real possibility that updated language aligned with the current administration could allow this funding to continue. So this formal appeal that is being submitted today is not the only thing that needs to be done. You and I need to do something to help make sure that Idaho is able to maintain this grant. So one, you can contact Idaho's congressional delegates. You can email, call, or leave a voicemail. Templates are going to be linked in the show notes. That's really easy for you to fill out. Now, congressional offices can ask the Department of Ed to pause this decision while appeals are reviewed. And our congressional officers can, push their, give their influence in various ways to help Idaho. Our four congressional leaders are there to help and stand up for Idaho. That's Risch, Crapo, Simpson, and Fulcher. Those four individuals are our congressional leaders, and they are there to advocate for Idaho. And this is something that deeply impacts Idaho. So I'm going to leave it at that. You can share this information. You can share this podcast. You can share these links. You can share email opportunities, whatever. You can share it with parents, your neighbors, educators, your school board members, your community leaders. These are all things that you can do without even leaving your home. You can do it all on that phone that's in front of you that we all have. Just know that policy does not move without people, and people do not move without information. We need you to, I need you to use this information to do something positive for your community. And other people around you are not going to know that they need to move and take action unless they have this information. And you are the conduit that can share this information. You have the capacity to do that. Please know that school communities are not about politics. They're about people. And right now, Idaho kids and communities need us to speak up. Thanks so much for listening today. I hope that we have good news in front of us. Please participate in getting this word out and share with me what you think about community schools. If you've got a story or an experience with your community school or hearing something else in Idaho about community schools, please share it with me. I'd love to share it with our community. I hope you have a great day. And that's a wrap for today's episode of The Purple Zone. Thanks for being here. If you liked what you heard, leave a review on your fave podcast app or on YouTube. And from me to you, the heart of The Purple Zone says community is where policy comes to life.